The boxers Dan Aziz and Josh Boatsi in studio with Simon and myself in about 10 minutes. In the meantime, in the world of cricket, Simon, and it's been live on talkSPORT 2, India closed day one of the first test in Hyderabad, 119 for 1 in reply to England's 246. I am delighted. Former England captain, legendary commentator David Lloyd joins us live. David, my producer tells me you were getting involved in our hard men in football conversation. What was your take on what Martin Keown was talking about?
Well, I absolutely love it. And I go back far further back than you guys. There was a fella played for England at fullback called Tommy Banks, and Walter Winterbottom was the manager. And Walter Winterbottom said, I want you to pay close attention to the winger Garincha and put him out of the game. To which Tommy Banks said, do you mean for tonight or forever?
Magnificent. Oh boy! And I take it Garincha didn't know what had hit him. Yeah.
Well, it was a quick, skillful winger. But in cricket, we had a guy called David Smith who played for Surrey, and I was frightened to death of him. So was everybody else. And he had a decorating business down in London. We had a wicket keeper before Farouk Engineer called Keith Goodwin, who'd been in the army. Now, I'm frightened to death of him, and he plays for us. He played for my team. And if you got in any altercation, he'd just turn around and say, I've killed a man. I've killed a man. He was in the army.
What was Freddie Truman like?
Fred was lovely, a bit boisterous. He had an opinion. He was a bit like you, Simon. Fred had an opinion, and he would never be swayed from it either. An absolute legend of the commentary box, and of course, the first bowler to 300 wickets.
As are you, legend of the commentary box. India, David, closed day one of the first test, 119 in reply to England's 246, 119 for 1. So how do you see it after the first day?
Well, a long way to go, number one. If you think back to McCullum and Stokes coming in, what they said right at the beginning, buckle up, you're in for a real ride. And I think we've seen that today as well. England didn't take a backward step, but neither did India. Jay Wally's a wonderful player. And he opens the batting in the IPL with Josh Butley, so we know all about him. And he took the game to England. They're in a good position at 119 for 1, but it's spinning. The thing that stood out for me is that the Indian bowlers spun it more than the English bowlers. And so you'd expect that because of their experience and playing over there and the wickets that they've taken. So Ben Stokes didn't push the field back. He didn't give any protection to Tom Hartley, and England have just got the 1 wicket.
So I wanted to ask you that, David, because John Norman here was quite disparaging of that decision in terms of he got walloped for his first ball for 6, got battered around the ground, an aggressive field has been set and maintained. I thought that's a psychological approach. I think it's similar to them declaring against Australia in the Ashes, we're not taking a backward step. This is the way we play. We're going to put you on notice and also put you off balance. But John was like, well, it's bad captaincy, I think, is the inference. What's your view on it?
Well, I think when you've got a young bowler who's coming in for his first game, you can give him a little bit of protection. So a left-handed batter against a left-arm bowler, the free hit, you've got a free hit into that leg side. So you can actually either block it off completely and say, now, do you still want to play? The other thing is you can entice him. You can bring that fielder in 15, 20 yards from the boundary and just dangle a carrot. Now, he didn't do that. And so from an old school perspective, I would say give him a little bit of protection, but it's not his way. He doesn't do that. And he will look at this Stokes and McCullum and they will say, OK, they've had a great day, India. They've got 119. They're still a long way off. Let's see how this pitch develops tomorrow. The concern will be that they've spun it more than we have. And this pitch will not get any better.
David, you were on with us yesterday, of course, and the topic of conversation was about the spinner, England spinner Shoaib Bashir's visa, and of course how he needed one to get himself out with England to India. And the story was that India were, shall we say, maybe holding up the process. So he got it after all, so it can be fast-tracked, and he's on his way, if not there now.
Do you know, I think there's a little bit that didn't come out originally that it's quite usual that he's in the UAE. He needs a stamp. He's just got to pop back to the UK, get a stamp and come back. And Archibaldley on commentary said a storm in the teacup. So there was a little bit of information there that wasn't divulged, that it's actually they're not stopping him coming in. He just needs the correct stamp. We can get back in England and he'll be there at the weekend. So, I'm now regretting a bit that I went in slightly harder than perhaps I should.
Oh, well, listen, I wouldn't worry too much about that. What's the takeaway then from day one? I mean, are you optimistic that England can get off to a winning start even now in the first test?
They've got to play the A1 game from now on in. Goff, the last thing that Goff said, and I thought, well, I'm agreeing with that really. We can't afford one bad session now. If we have a bad session, we're out of the game. This pitch will not get any better. There's nothing wrong with the pitch at all. I'm all for spinning pitches. It's two sides. England have got first advantage, winning the toss. 240, 250. Okay. Just about okay.
What have we got to knock them over for in this first innings to keep ourselves in the game, David?
Parity, they can, I'll give them 30 start, 280. Right. And you can stretch it really to 300, and then they've got to bat out of their skins because Ashwin will come at them. He's a wonderful, wonderful bowler. Jadeja, Axar Patel, and you'll see that the three of those bowlers, there's none of this flighted stuff. I'm going to do it with a little bit of flight and a little bit of guile. They drive it into the pitch, spin it hard, and then over to you as a batsman. Have you got the skill? England need the A1 game from now on to the end of the game.
Great stuff, David. Thank you so much for joining us. David Lloyd, of course, the absolute best when it comes to summing up what is going on in the world of cricket, or in this particular case, the first test between India and England from Hyderabad, day 2, live on talkSPORT 2. We talk boxing next in the company of Dan Aziz and Josh Boatsi.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.